Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Romali here with the off-season hurricane outlook and discussion for April 24th, 2020, recorded around 12:53 p.m. Eastern Time. Taking a look here at the latest SST anomalies, the sea surface temperature anomalies from the NOAA-NESDIS site, we noticed a couple significant importances here right now. First of all, you do notice that this area across the Nino 1, 2, and then eventually off into the Nino 3.4 regions, which is roughly positioned about in here as the Nino 3.4 region, is slightly above normal currently. However, there is an upwelling event that is expected to begin. What is an upwelling event? Well, upwelling is when we have these big easterly winds instead of westerly winds. The easterly winds will cause cooler and cooler waters to be progressed up towards the surface and then spread out. So we do expect that this area will start to cool after what was a little bit of a westerly wind burst, which does the opposite. It stacks up the warmer waters, it comes all the way across and parks itself right here and drives that downwelling effect, and that's going to cause for some pretty substantial warm anomalies to come and eventually fill the surface. We had a westerly wind burst not too long ago, but it's going to be followed here soon by another easterly wind burst that should bring up all the cooler water out across the Nino 1, 2, and eventually the 3.4 regions, which again are roughly located in about here. We also notice that the main development region of the Atlantic is very warm at this time, about a degree or about a half a degree to a degree above Celsius above the long-term average, and that does not sound like a lot, but it is across a spread out area. This will be plenty to fuel what could be a fairly active hurricane season here. Of course, that's the MDR of the Atlantic main development region, which is running again about a degree to, or half a degree to a degree above the long-term average here. And also you can see the Gulf of Mexico is fairly warm as well, above the long-term average, and really all throughout the Caribbean as well. And you do have a little bit now of a pronounced AMO signal starting to set up this Atlantic multi-decade oscillation, which can favor increased hurricane activity or decreased hurricane activity in the short, in just a shortened sentence. We do have a little bit of an AMO starting to set up across this region, and that's going to continue to favor what could be a fairly significant hurricane season upcoming. Again, these details will have to be refined as we continue to go on, but we are approaching about 37 days to the start of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, and only about a couple more weeks until the Eastern Pacific has its official hurricane season begin. Speaking of the Eastern Pacific, we are taking a look at Invest 90E. This is from the weathernerds.org site. You do notice that we do have some convective outflow, suggesting that we do have a rather interesting outflow pattern trying to set up. The National Hurricane Center has dubbed this Invest 90E out in the Eastern Pacific, and it has an 80% chance of development over the next 5 days and over the next 48 hours. We do notice that there is a concentrated area of spin here that has started to develop across this region right in here, with deep convection and outflow starting to set up. However, you do notice that off towards the west of this storm currently, this storm is moving off towards the west-northwest here and should continue to for the next couple of days. But you do notice all of this more stable air, this element of convective element, the convective elements here do support a more stable environment, and that's going to be one problem that the system is going to face. So this will likely not develop into one of those significant Eastern Pacific hurricanes like you see in the beginning of the year. There's going to be a lot of dry air entrainment that's going to try to wrap in the front side of the system, and that will likely get entrained here during the next couple of days. You also do notice that there is a little bit more dry air off towards the towards the east of this system. There's dry air both on the western and eastern sides, but a pretty good tight circulation currently with deep convection around it, and would not surprise me to see this continue to organize throughout the day today, potentially obtaining a tropical depression status by later this afternoon or tonight or during the day tomorrow. But you can definitely see that there's outflow expanding off towards the northwest and towards the northeast, which does suggest that there is a little bit more favorability left in this environment for the next day or so before it starts to move into a more hostile environment over here. Taking a look at the Invest 98 model and tendency guided, see this is from tropicaltidbits.com. You do notice that most of the computer models here do suggest that this will continue to not really intensify to a tropical storm, that this should continue to actually weaken wind speed wise, but it could still obtain a tropical depression status between tonight or during the day tomorrow before it moves into a little bit more hostile conditions over the next couple of days. And that's going to be really one thing we're going to have to continue to monitor. But again, this is going to be no threat to land really, so no real immediate threats to land there. As you can see, this is expected to continue to turn off towards the northwest and eventually move directly west. And this will continue to weaken with time. Cooler sea surface temperatures out here, which is also indicative of this the convective pattern out here, suggesting cooler sea surface temperatures as this continues to move into a more hostile environment. Taking a look here at the GFS, this is also from tropicaltidbits.com, the latest 12Z run of the GFS. And you do notice that we are looking here at the 850 millibar vorticity, which we are looking at here. This is Mexico right here, the Baja of California, and there is Southern California right there. And again, we're really continuing to monitor the little tight vorticity in here, and as we'll move this up to about 24 hours from now, you do notice that it becomes a little bit more concentrated in this region, but is a very small, tight, compact little system. You do notice also that there's a troughing of low pressure here, once again approaching the southeastern United States. We'll talk about that here in just a minute, but you do notice that we do have this vorticity that is trying to bundle up and could develop into something within the next 12 to 24 hours or so, and tries to hold on to a system even by 48 hours, but it is well away from Mexico and the Baja of California out there, and is also well away from Hawaii at this point. And then you can see eventually, this is suggesting by 0Z Monday, this begins to open up into an open wave-like system. The ECMWF, on the other hand, we'll take this out to about 24 hours. You do notice a little bit more in the way of consolidation across here, but really it does suggest there could be some or a little bit of an open wave across this region. Take that out to about 48 hours. It is a tight, compact, low-level system. It might have a closed low-level center of vorticity. And again, we are starting to see that starting to show signs here on the satellite imagery that we might have a closed center of circulation. And if that continues to persist, then the National Hurricane Center will likely upgrade this to a tropical depression. And again, this will continue to be a very small, compact system and not really intensify all that much. You can see by hour 84, 0Z Tuesday, there is little remnants of this. Still what could be a closed circulation at the time, but certainly nothing significant at this point in time. Taking a look at the Atlantic potential, we do notice, this is from Ben Knoll, by the way. We do notice that these colors here, and I'm going to tell you what they mean. These colors right here in sort of the reddish and oranges, these are more suppressed. They're more suppressed in the way of convective allowing. The green indicates uprising potential for the convection to freely rise. And we're going to start to see that here going into May across portions of the Atlantic. This roughly translates to this region out in here. And this is across the Nino 3.4 and 4 regions across here. There is a decent chance that we could see some early season activity for the Atlantic Basin coming up here starting really mid-May through June. We could see some early season activity. Again, we're just going to really have to see how that all plays out. But certainly what could be the start of a fairly active hurricane season could get going sooner than the hurricane season actually starts, which is on June 1st. We could see some early season activity in May, around the mid-May point, but again, we're just going to have to wait and see how that all progresses. That is not set in stone at this current time. Taking a look here at the Storm Prediction Center, we do notice, this is also from pivotalweather.com, we do notice that today there is a slight risk for severe storms just around the Lake Okeechobee region and in South Florida, south of Osceola County, south of Brevard County. We had a convective cluster move through overnight and MCS, which brought a couple of severe weather reports to near the Tampa regions, and further north we had a convective line that was stretching all the way down here, and that has really since begun to taper off. We don't really see the remnants of that anymore. Just a large area of rain extending all the way out here through today, and a enhanced risk for severe weather in the Arklatex region right here for tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds as well. Taking a look here at the COD Meteorology website for the Central Florida region, you do notice that we do still have some convective elements that are trying to develop back out here in a more established warm sector type, and this is going to continue to move off towards the northeast and east here at roughly about 30 to 40 miles an hour or so. And this is going to continue to provide the chance for an isolated severe storm or two south of Tampa today to about Lake Okeechobee. Do notice that the temperatures south of Lake Okeechobee are pretty warm, and we do have some convective elements trying to appear there, but a large area, expansive area of cloud cover, basically from all the way from about Tampa Bay all the way up to near Jacksonville, is going to really tamper and limit any severe weather potential today. There's a chance for more severe weather potential tomorrow across the Central Florida region. That is going to be it for this afternoon. Hope you all stay safe, and we will be back next week with another edition of the off-season hurricane outlook and discussion. Stay safe, everyone, and have a good day.